Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. May Yahweh Bashim Yahushai's peace be bestowed unto you, hopefully elect. I'm your brother Yahweh Call from Great Millstone, Orlando, and I'm just going to play this video here, getting into it. Saw this the other day. And of course, this is something that they wouldn't put out there on the mainstream media for obvious reasons, because it goes to show you America's weakness. All right, America's not the big bad bully on the block anymore. All right, although Trump is talking hella cash, they're trying to make it seem like as if America's still on top, when it's the complete opposite. America is on this downhill spiral. All right. So, this doesn't smell good for America whatsoever. All right. And again, they won't show this on the mainstream media. So, getting into this, we got this video here. The U.S. shock. The UAE ended petrodollar swap line, or we switch to Chinese yuan right now. Now, they exaggerated, when you certain videos exaggerate. Some videos that say that this is pretty much the UAE is begging for dollars. Others, such as this here, misleading title, talking about the petrodollar ending as if it's just a final nail in the coffin, when that's not the case exactly. But nevertheless, as I said, it is bad news for Babylon. All right, it's not good for America. All right. So getting into this, I'm gonna go ahead and play this video. Copyright disclaimer, fair use. I'm not making any type of monetary gain.
On April 20th, 2026, as this video is being made, the UAE walked into meetings with the Federal Reserve and U.S. Treasury officials in Washington and delivered a message that has never been delivered by a Gulf ally in the 50-year history of the petrodollar system. The message was direct, documented, and seismic. You started this war with Iran. If we run short of U.S. dollars as a result of it, either you give us dollar swap lines, or we will be forced to start pricing oil and gas in Chinese yuan and other currencies. That is not a threat from an adversary. That is an ultimatum from one of America's closest Gulf partners, a country whose sovereign wealth fund holds $1.7 trillion in assets, whose Jebel Ali port handles more cargo than any other port in the Middle East, and whose financial center, Dubai, has been one of the most dollar-dependent economies on Earth for decades. And what America says in response to that ultimatum will determine whether the petrodollar system survives this war intact or begins its most serious structural fracture in modern history. Subscribe right now and drop a comment telling me whether you think America grants the UAE the dollar swap line. Watch every second, because what happened in Washington today is the most consequential financial meeting that has not yet made mainstream headlines, and its implications for your energy costs, your mortgage rate, and the dollar's global reserve status are direct and immediate. To understand what the UAE is actually asking for and why it matters so much, you need to understand the financial plumbing of the Federal Reserve dollar swap line. The swap line is an emergency agreement between the Federal Reserve and a foreign central bank. Under the arrangement, the Fed provides U.S. dollars to the foreign central bank, which provides its own local currency as collateral at the prevailing exchange rate. The foreign central bank can then lend those dollars to its domestic banks to prevent the dollar shortage from cascading into a banking system crisis. Swap lines were used during the 2008 global financial crisis to prevent dollar funding freezes across European and Asian banking systems from amplifying into a global collapse. They were used again in March 2020 at the onset of the pandemic to prevent the same outcome. The Fed currently maintains permanent swap lines with 5 major central banks: the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of Canada, and the Swiss National Bank. Every other country needs to make a specific request.
Yeah, because dealing with these swap lines, dollar swaps, whatever you want to call them, there's different names for them. They only, well, for the most part, America really only dishes these out to particular countries. So one aspect of this, because this is just in talks, all right. So this type of move will give certain of these other countries that are not typically, you wouldn't typically, do these type of, I'll say, you give these type of loans to. With this, the UAE, they're pretty much coming to the table like, hey man, if you want us to not sell our treasury bonds and things of that nature, and if you don't want us to, because not too long ago, they just went over there, or pretty much, I'll say, had a discussion with the so-called Chinese. All right. So now, again, the UAE, because they're pretty much saying, man, hey, because of this war that you caused, we had nothing to do with, hey, man, hey, we need you to pay up, man. All right. Everyone's paying the price for what you started. And indeed, everyone is paying the price for this war that Babylon, being spearheaded by Amalek, has started. So, the UAE, man, they're coming to the table like, hey, if you don't want us to pretty much stop dealing with you completely altogether, and if you don't want us to start doing deals, if you don't want us to start trading in the Chinese yuan, then hey, we need this. We need dollars. Going into this whole dollar swap line, whatever you want to call it. And I was going to make another point. Oh yeah, because this type of move. Again, this type of transaction typically takes place. I forgot the term for it. But this will pretty much, other nations will use this, because again, everyone is pretty much paying the price. You got the EU dealing with these fuel shortages, right? They're pretty much taking lockdown measures, extreme measures, draconian measures. All right, everyone's feeling the effects of this war, this conflict, so-called Middle Eastern conflict. All right, so with that being said, everyone's going to look at this. Everyone, because believe it or not, man, as simple as these Babylonians are, all right. But make no mistake about it, these other countries, they're watching this. They watch things just as well as we watch these things. You best believe these other countries, they're watching this. All right, and pretty much, man, if everyone can get a dollar, from this war, you best believe, man, hey, everyone's pretty much going to come with their hand out.
UAE just made that request. In wartime, UAE Central Bank. Governor Khalid Mohammed Balma raised the idea directly with Federal Reserve and Treasury officials during meetings in Washington this week. The context for that request is the Iran conflict that has been escalating since the U.S.-Israeli military campaign began. Iran effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz, through which approximately 20% of the world's oil supply flows, to vessels linked to the United States, Israel, and their Western allies. The Gulf economies, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, are caught in an impossible position. They are American security partners facing a military conflict that America started in their neighborhood. Their logistics revenue is collapsing. Their shipping routes are disrupted. International capital is quietly reassessing the safety of Gulf financial center exposure, and the dollar liquidity that powers their banking, systems, and trade settlement infrastructure is under stress from a war they did not start and cannot fully control. The IMF has already flagged the Middle East conflict as a persistent economic headwind through 2026. Gulf economies are estimated to have collectively lost.
And so another aspect, and some say that because they're trying to put the narrative out there that this war is going to be over soon, all right, and things of that nature, but the UAE, some are, a lot are considering, and it makes sense. This is their way of pretty much getting ahead of the curve by requesting these dollars so that they can continue to, obvious reasons when you get into it. Because, again, while Esau is putting it out there, this war's going to be over soon and this and that, it's not looking like this is going to be over anytime soon. The Lord's will, it doesn't end anytime soon. So this is the UAE's way of pretty much getting ahead of the curve when it's all said and done. And, as things continue to go to, as shit continues to go to shit, again, they will already be ahead of the curve.
Approximately $50 billion in export revenues from the Hormuz disruption alone. For the UAE specifically, which built its entire financial and logistics model on the assumption of stable dollar flows through a secure Gulf, the compounding costs were severe. Military participation in the coalition to reopen Hormuz carries direct financial cost. The collapse of Jebel Ali logistics revenue and shipping routes divert around the conflict zone, removes a significant revenue stream, and the risk of capital flight from Dubai's financial center. As international investors price in the possibility that the Gulf's most globally integrated economy could face a dollar shortage is not theoretical. It is a live institutional risk being managed right now. Here's the rehook that makes this story so much larger than a single currency request. The UAE did not just ask for a swap line. The UAE delivered a conditional threat tied to the most fundamental pillar of American financial power. Emirati officials told their U.S. counterparts directly, if the dollar swap line is denied, the UAE will be forced to start transacting oil and gas in Chinese yuan and other currencies. That threat connects the swap line request to the 50-year architecture of the petrodollar system in a single sentence. The petrodollar, the arrangement under which Gulf states price oil in dollars and recycle those dollar surpluses back into U.S. Treasury bonds, is what has kept American borrowing costs artificially low for half a century. It is what has made the U.S. dollar the world's reserve currency. It is the financial foundation under which the U.S. government has been able to run multi-trillion-dollar deficits and still attract global buyers for its debt.
So this is pretty much and I got to do a part 2. I'm going to end this real quick, but this is pretty much like an insurance policy. Again, if you don't want us to sell our assets, then we we need some dollars.
UAE just told Washington that this foundation is now conditional on American behavior in a wartime crisis that America created. The UN dimension of this story
And like I mentioned, being that we are in a wartime crisis and everyone's feeling the effects, if shit, because again, everyone's looking at this. All these nations, they're looking at this. All right. And again, Babylon, typically they only do these type of transactions with certain countries. All right. And Saudi Arabia is not one of those countries that they typically do these type of deals with. But again, everyone's watching this. Everyone's feeling the effects of this. So everyone, this could send a signal to everyone else that, hey, they're going to come out with the hands reached out. But Slack, I'm going to do a part 2. Lord, I'll be back.